Hello, 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 and to the live. We are here doing Revelations chapter 13. Okay? So let's dive right into the chapter for today, Tuesday of this week. Okay? Then I stood on the sand of the sea. Talking about the sea in heaven, I imagine. We don't know what sea it was, though. I'm just assuming it was the sea in heaven. So, just letting you know. And I saw a beast rising up out of the sea. Okay? Having 7 heads and 10 horns. And on his horns, 10 crowns. Okay? Now, I have not studied this part of it all that much about what this means, what the beast is and all that, but watching many of the movies, if the movies that are about the rapture are supposed to be accurate, then based on that, the 7 heads and 10 horns are 7 kingdoms. And the 10 crowns are the rulers of those 7 kingdoms. I don't know what the 10 horns are, but the 7 heads and the 7 crowns, kind of referring to the kingdoms that decide to side with the Antichrist in the Armageddon days. Okay. And we know this because of what is said at the end of this verse, which is, and on his heads, meaning the heads of the beast, the 7 heads, on the 7 heads of the beast, a blasphemous name. Okay? A blasphemous name. Verse here is Daniel chapter 7, verse 2 and verse 7. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him power, his throne, and great authority. This could also be the Antichrist, the beast. So the beast, okay, let me see if I break this down here. Use some common sense, okay. I saw a beast, so it's talking about one beast coming out of the sea. So that would kind of indicate Satan. And that beast having 7 heads, so 7 extensions of his power, or 7 kingdoms that listen to him, if you will. And those 7 kingdoms would have 7 crowns, so 7 rulers or authorities that are bowing to that beast. And we know majority of the time the beast is usually referring to Satan. And on the heads of that beast, or I guess you could say that leading the head of the beast, is the spirit of a blasphemous name. So evil, basically. And that's just by reading the text. Anyway, so the beast is very disfigured. It looks like a kind of a jumble of all kinds of things. How I would say that is, if you look at the beast as, I wouldn't say disfigured, but I'd say like just a bunch, like the beast looks like a leopard and it has feet like a bear and mouth like a lion, which actually makes sense if it's the devil, because the devil goes around like a roaring lion. Although I've never heard of him being spoken of as a leopard or a bear or anything of those two. But the dragon gave him power. So the devil, gave him power. So the beast would be the Antichrist. And I say that with a question mark because of what it says in the end of this. So the dragon which would be the devil, I believe, gave him the beast. So beast would refer to somebody under the dragon, underneath the dragon's authority. So that would be the Antichrist. Yeah, that makes sense. So the dragon gives the beast his power, his throne, and great authority. And that makes sense right there. His power, his ability to do mighty works, even false miracles. His throne, his authority. So his throne, his position of power, his position of self-worship, all of that. So yeah, that makes sense. So that's how I would take that, just as if I was reading this and I knew a little bit about the Bible, that's how I would take it. Which is the beast is the Antichrist. The 7 heads are 7 kingdoms. I don't know what the 10 horns are as of yet. I have not been able to distinguish that as of yet. So, but on the head, on the horns are 10 crowns, so that says 10 crowns. So the idea is that originally 10, meaning that there's going to be 10 different kingdoms originally that are going to fall for the trick of the Antichrist when he comes along. And 3, so there's going to be 10, and then 3 of those will repent and turn away. And then that remains 7. So, and I'm basing that completely off of the movies I've seen about the rapture so far. Because, like I said, I have not studied in depth about this particular topic. So, I want to keep that at the front of your head, okay? Anyway. And I saw one of his heads, so one of the heads, as if it has been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world marveled and followed the beast. Now, again, Antichrist. In the rapture movies that have the Antichrist, at some point the Antichrist gets hurt and gets hospitalized and then pronounced, comatose or in a coma where there's no brain activity, and then he comes back after being filled with the spirit of the devil. So that's the general idea. And because he was healed, they would relate it to like, oh my gosh, it's like Jesus kind of thing. But since they don't really believe in Jesus, they would be completely, oh, this is the coming of the Lord. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of idea. That's why they're going to marvel and follow the beast. Followed. Keyword there. Followed. Followed. They decide that we're going to follow this. So they worshipped the dragon who gave authority to the beast. And that's in reference to the mark of the beast and bowing down and worshiping the dragon and the image of the beast and everything like that. So there's the key word. So they worshipped, right? What does the Bible say? You shall worship no other gods but me, right? Have no other gods before me. How does God take it in the Bible, in the Old Testament, when people worship other things? Okay? But even though they're worshiping the dragon, there is some truth in it that the dragon actually did give authority to the beast. So that is a true statement. Okay? And they worshipped the beast. There's that word again, worshipped. Saying, here's what they said, who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So because he was healed, they are automatically going to assume that he is the highest power ever. Okay? And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. That's talking about the beast. So he was allowed to speak all sorts of great things and blasphemies Blasphemies are like the basic terminology of blasphemies against God anyway are God's evil, God's this, God's that, God's a mean person, God's a bad parent, God's this. So the idea is that you're insulting and you're saying something very evil and bad against God. But another form of blasphemy, like in the way of what Jesus was accused of, is to put yourself on the same level as God. And that's why they were angry with Jesus, because Jesus was claiming, hey, I am God. And which is true, by the way. And so that is why blasphemy is very bad as far as that goes. So you would have to look at the actual word in the dictionary, which I'm not going to pull out right now. But anyway, I do know it's a very... So if I recall what it said, it's basically saying something that is very insulting and with no respect. So something that does not have hardly any respect to it. Okay, so he was allowed to say great things and many blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. 42 months. He was allowed to continue for 42 months. Here we see Daniel chapter 11, verse 39. Daniel chapter 11, verse 39 for that one. Okay. So 42 months is 12, 24, just short of 4 years. So just a little bit shy of 4 years. So 4 years is 48 months. So 42 months would be 3 years and 8 months time. Okay, so he was allowed to do whatever he wanted for that much time, which is roughly about the time that the Bible says, which is about 3.5 years after the rapture occurs. Okay, from what I've been able to learn about the Bible. Anyway, then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God. So he's saying blasphemous things in general first. Now he's opening his mouth to blaspheme God. God is stupid, God is dumb, God is this, God is that, God is a liar, God doesn't love you, God, kind of all sorts of stuff like that, okay? And to blaspheme the name of God. There is no God. There's no such thing as God, all those type of things, okay? And not only to blaspheme his name, but his tabernacle, right? There's no such thing as a holy city, or you are the holy city, or there's no holy temple, or any of that stuff. And also to talk bad about those who dwell in heaven. Okay? And it was granted to him, meaning it was granted. Okay, so who granted it? That's the question. Who granted? So let's read this first statement real quick. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Okay? So first question. Who is him? When it says granted to him, who's him? That would be the Antichrist, okay? So who's the one doing the granting? God. God is actually allowing it because it fulfills his word and shows he is honest and true, okay? God is allowing it. So even though Satan wants to do it, God still has to allow it, okay? This is why so many people get angry with God, because of all the things in the world that people get angry and hateful and spiteful against God for, because he ultimately allows anything and everything to take place that they don't agree with. Okay, so he's allowed to make war, meaning he's allowed to actually fight with the saints, the believers. Okay, and that's during the time. So that tells us there's going to be Christians here. Okay. The saints only refers to Christians. It does not refer to Gentiles. It does not refer to unbelievers. It does not refer to those who follow after the beast. No. Saints refer to believers. Okay? So, if anyone ever tells you, guess what? The church won't be here when the Antichrist is here. Wrong. Okay? Because right there you have saints on this planet while the Antichrist is here. Okay? He was given authority to make war with the saints, but not just make war with them, but what? To overcome them, to defeat them. Okay, to defeat them. Another area says to kill them. Okay. So overcome them, defeat them. And authority was, there's that word again, authority was given him. So authority, again, given, granted, given by God, him over every tribe, every tongue, and every nation. That means the whole world. He had complete authority over the entire planet. So here's a little hint for you. If you are here and you find this is one of the signs, okay, or I guess birth pains, if you will, when you see a one world leader, when you see that one world leader, that one person who has complete authority over the entire planet, you know that the rapture has already occurred, and that the person you're seeing as that one world leader is the Antichrist. Okay? All who dwell on the earth will worship him. They will worship this leader. Okay? All who dwell on the earth will worship him. Now, the next statement says, whose names have not been written in the book of life. Does that mean that the Antichrist's name? No, that's not talking about the Antichrist, because you have to read it in context. All who dwell. Who's the context? The people on the earth. That's the context. Okay, will worship him, the Antichrist, right? But when it says whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world, that is referencing that the names that are not written in the book of life of the Lamb are those who dwell on the earth that worship the Antichrist. Okay? Then verse for that is Exodus 32:32. Okay? For that one. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. So, in other words, please open your spiritual ears to hear that God is trying to give you warnings. Okay? He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Okay? So I'm going to try and break this down as best as I can. So let's see. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. So basically, if you lead people to evil, you will fall into evil yourself. He who kills with the sword, he who fights physically and looks to harm others, must be harmed in the same manner themselves. So in that one, kind of like, and this is just off the top of my head, from what I can tell of the text. He who kills is a hateful word, a word of animosity, a word of I want to harm you, I have no good intentions for you. Okay? With the sword could be sword your mouth, possibly. Could also be I want to kill you physically, I have desires to hate you and want to see you dead kind of thing. So the people that live in hatred, so when I see that, I'm immediately thinking people that live in hatred, people that live in I want to make others suffer, will have that same comeback on them, which is karma, basically. And here is the patience and faith of the saints. That we are much different. Now, there are two verses there, Genesis 9:6 and Isaiah 33:1. Okay? The patience and the faith of the saints. Okay? And just for the record, let's put it real. You're going to be in captivity one way or another. You're either going to be in captivity to God through willing obedience. So, or you're going to be in captivity to Satan through delusion and lies. So the difference is when you're in captivity to Christ, it is, first of all, it's by his will, not by yours, which is why many times in the Bible, the apostles will say, I am a prisoner of the will of the Lord, or I am a servant or a bondservant of the will of the Lord, or something of that lines. Okay? It's kind of like you're made to be a slave, but you're happy that you're a slave of this person kind of thing. So that's what's going on there. So although God did choose us to be his children and we didn't choose him, we are actually happy that we're actually slaves to the will of God, slaves to his will, slaves to his desires. Okay? The other side of the coin is captivity to Satan, which is you're doing it because you like it, because you like the evil and you want to keep your evil, but a lot of times, if not all the time, it's Satan convincing you that you're following your own nature, when in reality you're following Satan. Because remember what the Bible says, you're either with God or you're against God. You're either a friend of God or you're an enemy of God, right? You are either my friend or you're my enemy kind of thing. So there's no middle ground where you can stand, where you are neutral, where you're not picking Satan's side, you're not picking God's side. That's one of the great lies that Satan tells you. Okay? Let's continue. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. Okay? So, and he exercises all authority of the first beast. So this would be a secondary person underneath the Antichrist. So kind of like a really high assistant. Okay? And he is born of the devil's spirit as well. Okay? He exercises all authority of the first beast in his presence. Okay? So basically this second beast is what you would call like, so in America we have president, right, which is the highest. Then we have the vice president. Okay, the vice president has all authority as if you were speaking to the president in a way. So he has great authority to exercise everything that the first president wants. So basically, vice president answers to president. Okay, so here we have second beast answers to first beast. You get the idea? Okay, in his presence, and he causes, the second beast causes or makes or orders the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast. Now that's referencing again the mark of the beast, and you're going to be told to worship the beast, and if you don't, then you're in huge trouble. Okay, much suffering will come upon you. And it says, he who dwell in it to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Okay, talk about the first beast having some sort of wound that was supposedly healed, and actually was healed, as far as we know. And he, meaning the second beast, also can perform great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Here we see 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 38. So, if you're going through the world, right, and your idea is, I'm just going to wait till someone shows up that will show me great signs and wonders, and that's going to be my God, right, then you're going to be in huge trouble, because you're going to end up following after Satan and his cohorts without ever knowing it, okay? This is why the Bible says it is a wicked and perverse generation who looks for signs and wonders, okay? Those who believe in God don't need signs and wonders. We don't require it. We believe in a God that we have not seen, have not touched, and cannot audibly hear or visually see, okay? So he being the second beast, and he deceives, meaning the second beast again, deceives. Remember, deceives is the same as lying, okay? So I gave an example before of that, so let me give the example again. An example of a lie is, for example, I am black. Well, you just look at a picture and you can tell I'm not black. So that's an outright lie, okay? You can tell it's a lie. It's easy to spot, okay? A deceivement is something more tricky, because here's a deceivement. If someone was to come up to me and say, Kevin, are you single, right? And if I answer back to them like I used to do, which was to say, I am divorced, as an answer, I'm giving them an answer for a question they have not asked. And that is deceiving, because what they're asking me is, are you currently in a relationship? Okay. And when I give the answer, I am divorced, like I used to do, which I no longer do that, that is a deceivement, because even though I know the truth, I'm not willing to give them the full truth. I'm giving them only a piece of the truth in order to get to a certain goal. So the goal with that of you, so here's a little revealing. The goal of saying, in my heart anyway, of saying that to them, that I'm divorced, is to answer them without answering them. So give them an answer without actually answering them, because I had a online relationship that I didn't know if it would pan out or not. And because of that, I didn't want to close the door of a chance for a relationship that could be better in some sort of way, to where, so the idea would be like, if I had an online relationship in another country with someone in another country, and we were talking and saying we love each other and we want to be together and stuff like that, and someone who's new who came across my path, who's in America, for example, would say, okay, well, hey, are you single? I would say I'm divorced, as a way to answer them, not because I want to willingly lie to them, not because I want to be a liar, not because it is my idea to be a player or any of that sort of stuff, but because at the time I looked at it and said, okay, well, which one has the better chance of actually meeting me in person? The one overseas or the one who's actually already here in America? So that's why that would take place. See, it's a great lie of the devil. Here's the catch, okay? It doesn't matter what excuse, what reason, or for what motive you have for telling a lie or a deceivement, which is to deceive someone. It's always wrong, okay? Always. Okay? Anyway. So, and he being the second beast, getting back to the verse that we're talking about, deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast. So how is he deceiving? By telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. Here we see 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 7. So he's deceiving people, right? By, I guess, it doesn't say in like what way he's saying he's deceiving them. So maybe he's coming along and going, hey, here's my signs. I'm going to deceive you guys. I'm going to make fire come down from heaven. And here it is. And that's proof that I'm from God. Maybe that's the deceivement. Okay. So we don't know exactly what's going to be said by this second beast. We only know that he's going to deceive he's going to attempt to deceive those who dwell on the earth. And he's actually going to deceive so many by these signs. Okay. That he does. Okay. And he, meaning the second beast, was granted power. Okay. He was granted ability, power, to give breath to the image of the beast. Okay. So the idea would be to make the image of the beast or the statue of the beast to come alive in a way. And how do we know that? By what's said next. That the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Okay, so that so the general idea. There's an old movie called Never Ending Story. Okay, and I don't remember which one it was, whether it was the first, second, or third one. But at some point, there's a child walking past a bunch of statues, and these statues are, I guess, supposed to examine the heart of whoever walks in front of them. Okay, and when it does that, if it's found fear or doubt or anything like that in the heart of the person walking by, then the eyes open and the eyes shoot beams out and kill the person. So it kind of in a very similar way, this image of this beast is going to be able to actually move and talk. It's made to be alive, even though it's not actually alive. So I guess the idea would be like someone building a statue of Jesus and then making that statue be able to talk and speak, and also to kill. Okay. But the important part is what it says here, that he was granted power. Okay, so this second beast power, I'm guessing, is coming from the first beast, whose power was granted from God. Okay, not really that God gave the power to the first beast, but more along the lines of God allowed the first beast to exercise his power. Because he is a spiritual being, after all, right? The devil is a spiritual being. So he has some sort of power. Okay? We know this. Okay? But what's more important is to hear what's said here. That those who would not worship. So if you're brought before a statue and say you worship this, right? And you're ordered to do that, and you notice that the statue is talking, and it's sitting there going, "Worship me," right? Then you know dang well you're in the end times, and the Antichrist is here, and you're not ordered to bow and worship to his statue, okay, to his image. And those who would not do it, those who say, "No, I'm not betraying my God. I'm not turning away from God. I'm not betraying Jesus. I'm not worshiping you," right? That image is going to be able to kill those people, okay? To cause as many as would not worship, as many. That means, doesn't matter what the number is. Anyone who would not worship that image would be killed. So we don't know if this is the image itself is doing the killing, right? Or if the image itself is kind of like dictating and going, okay, worship me. Oh, okay, you won't worship me? Okay, hey, guys, have him killed, kind of thing. He's deserving of death. He will not worship me, so he shall be slain. Kind of thing. We don't know, okay? We don't know which way. But all we do know is that those who do not worship, those would kind of reference the believers, the saints, because those would be the only people that would not bow to the power of such a presence, right? Because they have the understanding of God, that those people would be led to be killed because of that choice not to worship that beast, okay? Which makes sense when you understand. Don't even try it. Okay, don't even try coming up here when I got this phone pointed at this thing. You can do that afterwards. Okay. Anyway, so getting back to what I was saying, it does tie in with what it said earlier in Revelation when it says those who are beheaded, right? Beheaded underneath the throne of God, right? That have been there through the tribulation. Remember that? Those who were slain but through the tribulation. And so that does give you a understanding of how you're going to be killed, though. You're going to be beheaded, your head cut off. Okay? So it's not going to be like we give you a lethal injection or we electrocute you. It's bye-bye to your head. We separate your head from your body. So, anyway, getting back to what's being said. He causes both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark. Okay, so that's the mark of the beast, by the way. So it doesn't matter whether you're small or great, like whether you're poor. Well, it says rich or poor, so small or great would be whether you're a celebrity or whether you are a nobody. Rich and poor, that would directly reference your money. Free or slave, that would reference whether you are, well, let's see, we don't exactly have slaves right now in the sense of slavery, but I'm sure there are parts in the world that do have slaves. So whether you're a person who's completely free and owns himself, or whether you're in a different part of the world and you're a slave to someone else, doesn't matter. He will cause those people to receive a mark. We don't know whether it's going to be forced or whether it's going to be you have a choice. Okay, I would kind of venture more towards you would have a choice, because I don't think, because when we look back and it says, cause as many as would not. That's directly referencing choice. Would not. Would choose not to worship the beast. Okay? But he would cause, so I guess the general idea, this is another sign that you're in the times of the Antichrist. Okay? If you ever see anything where you receive some sort of mark that's either on or in your right hand or forehead. So here's some ideas I'm going to let you know that have been floating around. One is some sort of tattoo. Some sort of tattoo that's either on your forehead or on your right hand. Another idea that's floating around is a microchip that is implanted underneath your skin, okay? And this chip or this barcode or whatever it is that's implanted in you is how you're going to be paying for everything, and you basically will not be able to do anything without it. Okay? So you're going to receive a mark. Okay? So now here's how we know that no one will be able to do anything without the mark, by what it says in verse 17. And that no one may buy, they're not allowed to buy or sell anything except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Okay? So the name of the beast, whatever the name is, the name of the beast. So if it's a tattoo, okay, tattoo of whoever the beast is, with the name of the beast, right? Or anything along that lines. Okay? So you get the idea that at some point there's going to be a mark that's going to be required. Maybe it'd be a law and say, hey, you need this mark. We require everyone to take this mark. Come get this mark. Come take your mark. Okay, kind of thing. But they're not going to use the word mark. They're going to be like, hey, we're doing this for your own good. We're here to help people so you can continue paying your bills. You're going to be allowed to do this, do this, do this, do this. So my guess is they're going to try and pass it off as, we're here to help you. We're here to assist you. We're here to make your life easier, and things like that. Okay? So that's how they're going to pass off this mark. They're not going to call it the mark, obviously, because that would be a dead giveaway. And that no one may buy or sell except the one who has the mark. So let's continue, okay? Here is wisdom. So here's understanding. So listen. Let him who has understanding calculate or understand what the number of the beast is. We all know this number. For it is the number of a man. Whoa. Wait a minute. The number of the beast is actually the number of man. Hey, cut it out. Okay. The number of the beast is actually the number of man as well. That's what it says here. For it is the number of a man. His number is 666. When it says number of a man, I'm assuming that's referencing the sinful nature of man, that it's straight from hell. Okay. So we only got a little bit more. Actually, that's the last part. So we just finished chapter 13. Thank you, guys. And I will see you sometime on Wednesday. How did I say that before? If it be God's will, on Wednesday or Thursday. So that's the general idea. And in the next one, we're going to be looking at the Lamb and who the 144,000 is. Now, if you remember previously, the 144,000 so far that we've been able to figure out are those who are from Israel, the Jews, in other words. Okay, but we're going to learn a little bit more dealing with the 144,000, because many people are going to come along and say, "Hey, we're Mormons. We're the 144,000," or "We're this new religion popping up, and we're the 144,000." You know, don't buy into it, especially if any of them have wives. And we'll get into that in the next chapter. So I'll see you guys later, and be blessed.